More and more states are willing to garnish the tax refunds of the poorest individuals in their states. In fact, this is a news story that was reported by the Center for Public Integrity. And what they looked at was just how many states have decided to garnish, meaning take out portions of people's tax returns if they owed the state money for things like, let's say, traffic violations, parking tickets. Let's say they owed fees or fines to the courts. Well, this is an easy way to make sure that people pay for it. If they're getting a tax refund, why not just garnish that to ensure that people pay? Now, this is an issue because if you look at a lot of these fees as they stand, even without putting the pandemic into the equation, these are usually regressive taxes, right? Oftentimes, states will make up for lost revenue because they refuse to ensure that wealthy people in their state pay their taxes by implementing all sorts of fees and fines. They'll put out more traffic tickets, more parking tickets, things like that. But during a pandemic, you would think, hey, maybe don't garnish people's tax returns, because the people who get these tax returns oftentimes desperately need them in order to stay afloat. So as the Center for Public Integrity reports, in virtually all states that levy a personal income tax, garnishments have been deployed on thousands of tax refunds, along with lottery winnings and stimulus checks, something that we covered earlier, among others, during the pandemic-driven recession. So I want to just go to this graph that shows you the states that do this the most. California happens to be one of them, unfortunately. Michigan tends to garnish the tax returns of their residents at a much higher rate. But California, Georgia, Illinois, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania are certainly on that list. Illinois and California received so much backlash for this practice that they have decided to suspend garnishing tax returns until the end of the year. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this, Dr. Richey, because it just seems as though as we're experiencing this unequal, uneven economic recovery, where the richest continue to get rich and the poorest continue to get poor. I mean, local governments have decided, no, we're gonna keep doing these insane, toxic practices that further victimize people who are struggling.
Yeah, it shows you that being marginalized is expensive. And they are garnishing these individuals who are waiting for a stimulus check. You got to think about how evil that is. We're in the middle of a pandemic. That stimulus check had a function, had a purpose. You mean to tell me you're going to garnish this money because you don't have the political fortitude to collect taxes from the rich influencers in your state? And let's be very clear. The reason why California and other states decided to do an about face, and some other state comptrollers have decided to make a preemptive rule and not collect during this time, is because it is a political issue. And if you have the political will, you can do the right thing. This is not an issue that will determine the ability of the state to pay its bills. You see, they're not in a scenario where they can't pay bills in the state that's doing this. So this is not a financial issue. This is not based on the economy. This is all based on the political leaders who are in power, who are in charge. And they are willing to dump on the poor, to ignore the wealthy, and to make this political decision. So big ups to others who have decided not to do this. And I'm thankful for states that decided to stop doing it, but it shows you the nature of it was never economic, it was all political.
Yeah, I mean, in California specifically, in 1978, there was a ballot initiative that unfortunately passed, Prop 13. And what it did was limit the property taxes to about 1% of the cash value of the home. And so what that did was it just defunded the education system, the LAUSD in particular in California. And we started to see this emergence or this increase in various fines and fees. I mean, when you look at some of the regressive taxes that are implemented in various states, I mean, in California, you also have a sales tax, right? And sales taxes happen to be the same percentage regardless of what your income is. All of these regressive taxes end up hurting low income earners the most. And to add insult to injury, if they happen to get into any type of issue, whether it be some sort of fine, right, for a violation, a parking violation, traffic violation, whatever it is, there should be another option, right, for people who might not have the means to pay for that kind of violation, whether it's community service or something like that, to give them an option to do what's right, to make their mistake right, I guess, for lack of a better word. But to force them to pay, I mean, in California, you get a speeding ticket, for instance. You're talking about $500 minimum out of pocket to deal with that speeding ticket. And that doesn't even include the trouble you're gonna have to go through with car insurance, which is also gonna go up with the premium as a result of that traffic violation. But there was a significant increase in those types of fines and violations following the passage of Prop 13. And it's just, we're seeing it play out on a yearly basis, but during a pandemic, it's just particularly disgusting. It really is.
Yeah, and another great irony is that some of these individuals under this garnishment order, they would literally have their license suspended if they did not pay the particular tax. So you got to think about the ridiculousness of that. You mean to tell me that a person who already cannot pay the fee, you are trying to garnish and you can't get the garnishment for the fee they may owe or the tax they may owe? Your obligation now as a governmental entity is to suspend their means to even pay the bills that they have to pay right now by taking away their license. How is that a solution? How is that a remedy? That provides an additional problem for the person who's already suffering tremendously.
Yeah, absolutely. A few other examples. So last year, before California decided to suspend this practice, you had 7 of the most populous states in the country: California, Georgia, Illinois, Michigan, North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania, collecting more than $728 million combined from state tax refunds. And then you've got Michigan, which collected $136.5 million in 2020. They had the highest garnishment rate of $13,546 per 1,000 residents, followed by Ohio, which collected $10,161 per 1,000 residents. So we're talking about garnishments that are crippling for low-income earners. And if you look at the data that was provided by the Center for Public Integrity, of course, the main targets happen to be people of color and those on the lowest end of the economic ladder. So luckily you have 2 states that have decided to suspend this practice, but like we've always mentioned in other fixes, it's like a Band-Aid on a gushing wound. I think the overall issue of not giving people another option to having to pay these fines is a real issue, is a real problem. So hopefully the future can have solutions other than just suspending something temporarily. Because once that suspension is lifted, we're back to the same problem again.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR, so those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.